Yeah, Aparna, you can start.
Okay. Is everyone can see me?
Yes.
Yes, Aparna, continue.
Okay. Warm good evening to all, and I welcome each one of you to the today's session of the webinar series. And I would like to welcome Dr. Sabik, the chairperson of MSS, and we have an eminent personalities gathering with us, Dr. Hiran V Nath, the assistant professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the NIT Calicut, and he was a research scholar at the Center of Cybersecurity Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology, established by Reserve Bank of India. And I'm welcoming Dr. Bintima T, branch counselor, IEEE SBGAC Calicut, and she's also the IEEE Kerala section site chair. And finally, I'm welcoming all the participants joining with us. And I'm so glad to hand over to Dr. Hiran V Nath, sir. Hello.
Yeah, thank you, Ambarna. So, okay. So anyway, thank you for inviting me for this section. So I'll be covering the impact of malware in cyber threat landscape. So my specialization is on malware and its advanced attacks and all. So I'll be giving a brief introduction about that, and then I'll be taking over what is the threats and what are the current problems which has to be addressed. So that's what I'd be handling in this 1 hour section. So I hope I would be able to cover what all your aspects. Okay, so maybe first we'll start with some beautiful pictures. So I think you are able to see this picture. So it's it looks like a flower, right? So it's actually a, I don't know, generally I used to ask it as a question, so I don't want to, because ask it like it's actually a visualization. It's actually a keylogger. So I think everyone knows what is a keylogger. So I'll be covering that. What is a keylogger? Everything I'll just cover it in short. It's a malware. It's a malware stands for malicious program. So it's a malware. It's a visualization of the malware, which could create some damage to the system or the user or the financial loss. So this is another virus which is there. So this comes as Netsky. So these are, none of these are my work. So this belongs to MIT Media Labs, Alex. So they have done this work, and it was published in Digital Forensic Research Workshop in 2012. So this was the starting point of the malware visualization. So this shows how the visualization was done. So basically what happens is that any malware, any virus or anything, that's actually a program itself, basically a program. It could be an executable, it could be a non-executable file. We'll see like why not executable. Like till now everyone used to say like be careful with executables. So what I am going to say is be careful with non-executable also. Like you just need not worry about the executable. Always you have to be very much careful once you are dealing with the video files and PDF files and all. So that's what we are going to see. So this is basically an executable file, so which comes and which does some packing and all, and then it enters into the system. It will execute some system files. It will do some DLL procedure loader. It will do some file injection, and this is how the execution routine is done, and based on which the visualization is done. So that's how this visualization is done. Okay, now I'll come to the topic. So with this basic introduction, I'll come to the topic. So what I'm going to say is today I will be giving an introduction, then I'll be giving some timeline of how the malware trends was, when it started and how it is. Then like the trends, the current trends, why why we are making this topic important, because like if you check, like we are not hearing that much on malware, but we, like most of us, we won't hear anything on malware or anything on virus. Like whatever we generally hear is, we generally says, okay, my system got infected. Then the next answer what will come is like, okay, do a full format and reload it and you could use it. So that's what we generally, so why it's a problem? It's a problem for the society. So that's something which is important. So then what are the solutions and what is a challenge? So challenge gives us a scope for the research and scope for things to be done to get it solved. And then the conclusion. So basically malware is a set of instruction that runs on your computer and make your system do something that the attacker want to do. So there will be an attacker and he wants to do something. So that's what the malware is. So like it could be anything. It could be anything that the attacker wants to do. It could be a it could be just to execute a program. It could be duplicate a program. It could be make an entry point for him to come and sit in your system and do something that he or she wants to do. Or it could be to do an attack to another system. Like it could come into a system, it could do an attack to another system. It could be anything of that sort. So that's why yeah, sorry. Okay, so that's why all this comes in the category of malware. And maybe once I am saying that, so whatever I am saying is like I am saying like, okay, it could do anything in the system, then it would be considered as a malware, like anything malicious. So consider like I develop a software and maybe like this is just an incident which has happened. So maybe I'll start with an incident and then I'll go to the malware categories. So consider like I am a software developing organization, and you, maybe one of you have asked me to develop a software. So I comes to you, okay, and you say like, okay, you have a banking system and you need to develop a software for your banking scenario. And like the core banking system, it's generally known as CBS, which is there, which is used by all banks for their banking transaction. So you says, okay, you need to develop. So I'll take your specification, everything is fine, perfectly fine. Then as a test, I'll create an account for me. And then later once I am finalizing the system, then what I'll do is I'll like I'll write a small code inside that which does nothing harm. It doesn't do anything harm. It only does this. The logic of this code is like this. So whenever one of your customers is doing a transaction, so what I am going to do is I am going to truncate that paise part. Means it's actually the transaction is, if it's the transaction is 55.45 rupees, then the 45 out of till 40 everything was fine. That the remaining 5 paise, that what I am going to do is I am going to just transfer that paise to my account. So I have created a test account and I am going to transfer that paise to my account. So will that software be considered as good software? So it's not. That would be, again, like it's not doing anything harm to anyone, but it's doing a illegal transaction while each person. And but if you see, like it's only 0.5, so 0.05, so what is the big deal in that? Or maybe maximum is 0.09, so what's the big deal? But whatever, anything which is not wanted, if a software does anything that is not wanted, that comes in the category of malware. And whatever, even though I said it as a case, it was a actual case which went to investigation, and it was investigated and the culprit was jailed. So and I think it was jailed for 3 years or imprisonment or something. So that's what the penalty is. So that's also considered as a malicious program. Okay, now we'll come to various categories. So the various category of malwares are like virus. Virus is something which we generally say, like whenever something happens, something gets slowed down in my system, then what I am going to say is oh, I think something got virus got infected into my system, and none of us says malicious malware or malicious program is getting infected into our system. What we'll say is we'll say like virus might have got infected. So that's a general term which everyone uses, but it's only one category of malware. Effectively, it's only one category of malware. It's a program that when executed, it just replicates by modifying another computer program. It could insert itself into inserting its own code. When this replication succeeds, the infected system is known as infected with a computer virus. So it could insert itself into either the top or the bottom or some part of the code, and it makes itself execute whenever this program gets executed. And it has the capability to hide itself. Like if the program is something which gets infected into the Explorer, whenever you tries to do any modification, it will hide itself, and it won't in any of your search routine, this file won't be displayed. So it depends on the capability of the malware developer. So how well he is capable of developing the malware. So that's a mechanism. Okay, the next part is the worm. So in case of worm, what happens is, so it's a type of malware that spreads copies itself in itself from computer to computer. A worm can replicate itself without any human interaction. It does not need to attach itself to a software program or do any cause or damage. So that's the importance of worm. And like whatever, if you see the history, the first malware came out in 1989. So the first malware, which was actually, it was known as Morris worm. If I am remembering correctly, it's known as Morris worm. So which was, yeah, it's known as Morris worm, which 1988, which came out in 1988. And like what happens is that was just a program which was written for demonstrating a buffer overflow attack. And what happened is it was capable of, because it has a worm behavior, it is capable of replicating itself, and it could spread all over the world. So what happens is it went out of his control, and it have created a big loss of almost like $250,000. And so and it was very easy to capture to catch the person who was behind it, because it was not well, the network was not very big or anything. So that's why it was very easy to catch it. And then what happened is like he was jailed, and later he was asked to do a lot of social work, and finally he came in, and presently he is a professor in, I think, MIT. So he's working as a professor in MIT. Okay, so that's a history of worm. So how the worm was introduced and how it affected. It created a lot of chaos all over the system. Okay. Then the next thing is like the Trojan. So I think many of you might have heard about the Trojan, and if you one second, sorry. Okay, if you see like the Trojan is yeah, Trojan is a type of malicious software or malicious code or software that looks legitimate but can take control of your computer. A Trojan is designed to damage, disrupt, steal, or generally inflict some data or harmful some other harmful actions on your data or network. So this is the explanation of the Trojan. So Trojan could actually come sit in your system and do something whenever, like maybe on a date or maybe on a particular event, it could act maliciously. Till that point, it might not act maliciously. So that could be Trojan. Then the backdoor is typically a covert method of bypassing normal authentication. So like whenever we are saying about the malware, so is it only applicable for our system? So it's not just applicable for our system. It is also applicable for, I hope many of you might be from this field. So I'm thinking like, you know, about the home routers which you uses. You have your home routers. you have your means the BSNL router or maybe FTTH routers or maybe the geo routers which you are using in your home, and maybe like in your institute you would be having routers or network devices, switches, routers, and all these devices. So the backdoor could come in any of those. So like what happens is, like an intruder, maybe I am an intruder, I would be able to enter into your network, I would be able to do many things in your network without any of you getting aware of that. So that's what a backdoor is. A backdoor is typically a covert method of bypassing normal authentication or encryption in a computer, product, embedded device, or its embodiments. Backdoor can most often used to secure remote access to a computer or obtain access to a plain or a cryptographic system. So plain text in cryptographic system. Okay, so like as an example, I could say like in earlier, like in around 2014, there was an incident saying that all the D-Link routers were having backdoors, in hard-coded backdoors, so that someone could enter into your router and do any modification remotely. And many cases, many small devices like these Chinese equipments has backdoors, and which most of us doesn't check. So whatever happens in the defense system is like they either develop it by themselves, they have a concept of indigenization, or else whatever they do is, so let anyone develop it. So whatever they'll do is they will actually bring it to their lab, do a reverse engineering of their code, and understand what is exactly happening and what is there, and then reload it. So that's what they does. As per, that's also a government norm which is there. So any of these devices which has to be used has to be unlaced and do it. But I don't think that unless it's a defense or a critical network, they are not using any of those. So it was actually done in the banking scenario. In the Infinite network, we were using that. We were checking the various devices. We used to do it's actually a part of VAPT which we used to do. Okay, then another category is a keylogger, sometimes known as keystroke logger, or a system monitor. Is a type of surveillance tool used to monitor and record each keystroke typed in a specific computer or keyboard. So what happens is, like, Keylogger, initially it was only to record the keystrokes. Later it added to record the mouse events also. Later it added a functionality to record the screenshots also. So nowadays Keylogger has multiple functionalities. So whatever the malicious users introduce, so the Keylogger has multiple functionality. Like it has a capability to monitor many activities. So that has actually evolved the banking scenario also. So if you check nowadays, initially there was only username, password. Now later there was an OTP which was introduced. Later, like on-screen keyboards. So on-screen keyboards are there, and later after that, what happens is they have even started to randomize the key locations. On each mouse click, they will randomize the key location, and on-screen keyboard itself, they will randomize the key location. So this was evolved, and this was evolved because of the malware developers who are working constantly on keystroke loggers. And now whatever they are doing is, because they also need to save the bandwidth, so they are not taking the entire screenshot, they are only taking the screenshot of the pixel around the mouse click. So they'll take the screenshot only around that screen and they are sending it. So that's what, and they are also using very good OCR techniques to recognize it and make it as a data and use it. Okay, so this is the status of the keylogger and the defensive mechanism what the banks uses, and they also uses SALT also along with it. And okay, so then the spyware is unwanted software that filtrates into your computer, stealing your internet usage and sensitive information. So it's a malicious software designed to gain access or damage your computer without your knowledge. So then a bot is a software application that is programmed to create to do certain tasks. It will come to your system, it will automatically do various tasks without your knowledge. So it won't be, generally you won't be aware, but sometimes you may get aware of something that might be happening, like maybe your CPU usage or something. So but most of us doesn't care. So on that, so bots are automated, means they run according to the instructions without a human user need to start them up. Bots often imitate or replace human users behavior. So because they need to make sure the system feels like it's actually a human who does it, so they tries to imitate the human user behavior. They moves the mouse, they writes the program to move the mouse, move the press the keyboard character, all those things. So they so bots is actually like an advanced version is there, which is botnet. So we'll actually see it in upcoming slides. Okay, ransomware, it's actually a malicious software that infects your computer and display a message demanding a fee to be paid in order for your system to work again. The class of malware is criminal money-making scheme that can be installed through deceptive links as an email, message, instant message, or website. So this is actually a serious offense. So ransomware is nowadays becoming a serious offense and has to be dealt with. So, and there are, at the time of COVID also, there was a serious issue which was created by ransomware. So we'll see, like we'll go into detail and we'll see why and what is preventing it from getting detected. So then the potentially unwanted program, I think like the Ask toolbar and many toolbars that get installed with many softwares. So they are potentially unwanted programs which may infect your system. It may push advertisements to your system. It may do something like it may take your processing. It may like it may use its own search bar and all those, which are not actually useful, which are malicious, but it will come and it will do something in your system. Then the cryptojacking malware infects computer to use them to mine cryptocurrency, usually without user knowledge. So user might not be knowing about that. So it comes into your system, it uses your resource. So that's what it is important. So it uses your resource. Okay, I think I have given a basic introduction about what are the categories, what are the type of malware. But now please don't think like, okay, these are the only categories which is there. So now whatever happens is, it's not just one category, it's a combination of many categories that comes together. So even though we have classified it as bot, ransomware, then cryptojacking, or maybe the keylogger, backdoor, worm. So there may be a ransomware that has a behavior of a worm as well as ransomware. So there may be a malware, a virus that has a behavior of worm, backdoor, and bot. So like we don't know exactly how it is happening. So that's what where we are presently. So we are not presently in a state where it's like we could classify exactly saying that, okay, this is a bot, or this is a malware, this is a ransomware, or this is a cryptojacking malware, or anything like that. We have to it comes in multiple category, and it has behavior of multiple categories. So it's actually tough and risk for us. So like maybe malware versus detection technology, how it evolved is like earlier it was just the Morris worm which was there, which was only for the demonstration. Nowadays it's not like that. So nowadays what happens is no one is actually using it just for demonstrating or showing like I could do it. There may be one or two who might be doing it, who are like script kiddies, or who are like maybe the school students who might be doing it. But nowadays what happens is it's more like a country to country, or the organization to organization wars, and like to get the business, to defame an organization, to defame something. So it's more like a targeted. So it has actually evolved a lot. It have gone to Melissa, it have gone to anonymous forms. So we'll say like all those. Then the source Trojan, which was infecting infecting lot of machines and looting lot of money. It have like many persons have lost a lot of money inside that. Then the Stuxnet, which created a chaos all over the internet. It was actually a 7-year-old project which was executed and which was finally capable of bringing down Iran's nuclear power plant. We'll see that. And like then in the WannaCry itself, we have seen like the around 2007, we have seen like ransomware itself. We have seen something like WannaCry, which was in 2017, like the Bitcoin, everything. And so the ransomware, even though system gets infected with ransomware, that money, someone would be able to pay the ransomware through Bitcoin and it might not be traceable. So there is a traceable issue which is there. So all like this, it was involving. So based on which, whatever they have started is to secure from the worm. They have initially started with a firewall, saying that, okay, if you are closing the port and if you are not allowing them to communicate, then we could secure the systems from the worms and all. Then like stateful inspection, like then IPS, intrusion prevention systems, started like around. Then like URL filtering, everything started, like URL filtering, unified threat modeling, that have started now. Like, and again, like later, next generation firewall. And next generation firewall is actually like a club of multiple blights. It's not just one firewall, it is actually a club of multiple blights. So even if someone of you might not have heard about firewall, you could go and explore what is a firewall and all. So it secures your network and it secures your systems. So and there are open source firewalls also, you could explore those. And then like now the present scenario is like the threat intelligence, threat prevention, mobile security, and those are the special current scenario. And like you have like, it's the bring your own device. So that's a culture which is there. So you have to make sure like someone enters your organization with their device is actually secure from any of the threats or attacks. So that also has to be taken care. Okay, now what malware leads to? So like if you see from, it's just a little bit old data. If you see from 2005 to 2018, there is around like 8,668 breaches, data breaches, and which have led to almost like around 1 second. So around like 10 crore, sorry, not 10 crore, 106 crore records, more than 106 crore records. So like out of these data breaches, a part of it is actually due to the malware. So either at one stage or at other stage, there is a role which is played by the malware. So that's something which is actually very important. So even if we say like it's accident, apart from the web on data on move or subcontract or insider theft, a majority of that is due to the hacking, and in hacking, malware plays an important role. Okay, so like this is actually a question. So like whether we used to say like an attack which is known as DOS, distributed denial of service attack, like which could create a lot of which could bring down a server, and which could, and everyone becomes busy because their entire servers are down due to a lot of traffic that comes to their systems, and then they goes for securing their system. At that point, what happens in the background? So that's what one big thing that happens is like the data breach. So there could be a malware attack. Malware could create a backdoor. It creates a backdoor through which all the data also comes out. And because it's actually a like a data is a very small record inside the DDoS attack, so no one gets more aware of that there is a loss of data that is happening. So that's also a big reason. Okay, so like the largest credit card data breach happened in Maryland Heartland payment system, which was in 2009. So around like 130 million records. And like largest healthcare data breach, Adam Blue, in 78.8 million people records were exposed. So these are just something which is known. Which are not known is something which has to come out in near future. Okay, maybe with just to, because I am just going into detail, so that's why I'll just cover a basic part of the cryptography. So like the symmetric cryptography, we used to have a common key. So we used to have a common key, and like I'll encrypt it I'll be having a plain text. I'll use an encryption program, and whenever you need to decrypt, you would be using the same encryption. You would be using the decryption program with the same key that I am having, and I'll be using this encryption program, encrypt the data and send it, and it becomes a cipher text, and it comes to you. Then you use the decryption key and decrypt it with the shared key, and then you will get back the plain text. So this is the symmetric crypto system which is being used. And then the next is the asymmetrical crypto system. So public key cryptography or symmetrical key crypto system, where you have two keys. One is an encryption key and one is a decryption key, which is inverse of each other, and you would be using a program to encrypt the data, which is the public key would be used to encrypt the data, and the private key would be used to decrypt the data. So like you would be getting back the data. So why I am saying this? Because I'm going to come into that. So because of one is because of anonymous proxy, the second is because of lot of attacks that is happening with obfuscated malware. So we'll just need to say about the obfuscated malware. So anonymous proxy is designed to increase your privacy in the web by hiding the public IP address issued by your internet service provider and routing all traffic through different public servers and addresses. So that's a anonymous proxy. So nowadays you are capable of purchasing anonymous. You are capable of purchasing VPNs from various anti-malware companies also to make your communication secure. But there are also VPNs which you users to make yourself hidden. So that's actually a problem here. So that could lead to various other issues, because even your traffic gets like the HTTPS stripping could be happening at that end, and then your traffic, your passwords, everything gets compromised, and you may get become vulnerable. So like Tor is one of the tool which is used for anonymous communication, which was actually introduced by it was a naval research project, Office of Naval Research Project, which was introduced in 1995, and DARPA in 1995. They combined 1997, and it was open source later in 2003. So, and what happens is here it's actually a communication where what happens is there is 3 different nodes. So if I am starting my communication, what I does is I will start my communication and I need to go to Facebook, but I won't directly go to Facebook. Instead of that, I'll first encrypt my data with public key of one system, then encrypt my data again with the public key of the second system, then encrypt the data with the public key of the third system, and then I'll send this data to the first to the third system, which is known as the guard node. So I'll send this data to the first system, the third system, and from the third system they opens up the first layer, because they have the corresponding private key, and then they will understand, okay, it has to go to the middle node. So then they will send it to the second system, and from there they opens it up with their private key, and then they will send it to the first system. From the first system they will open up, they will see the actual content. That means I have to communicate to Facebook, and they'll send the data to Facebook. So this is something which is used. So like why I said it is because this is also used by malware in most of their program, and they uses it a lot. So this is known as the onion routing, and there is 3 level of encryption, and they use as a public private key encryption pair. So asymmetric encryption, and it's well secure. And most of the cases, what happens is these relays are located in different parts of the country, different part of the world, and like many cases like they won't be able to trace back. And now, but the current scenario is like the CERTINs, Computer Emergency Response Team, they actually have a malware analysis lab. So I forgot its name. So Yeah, Computer Emergency Response Team of India, Delhi, they have a malware analysis lab, except they were giving a fancy name for that, but I forgot it. So they actually does a lot of work in that, and they correlates between various countries, and they tries to trace back these attacks. So okay, so and each time how this Tor work is, each time for each communication it takes different route and reaches the destination. So it takes the different combinations and reaches the destination. So that's why like each communication, each packet, once it follows, it has to be made sure that okay, you have to trace back and you have to find out the original source and the destination. Okay. Okay, so the government agencies or the NSA and various agencies, they are also behind this to now to understand what the what the Tor users are doing and how to track them, how to understand like what exactly they are doing, how to block their illegal activities. So that's what they are also trying to do. So if you actually, like, I am not exaggerating, if you actually go and see the onion routing, it's not like you need to download the onion program from the Tor program from the site, and you could just actually use it. Then if you go there, you could see that there are a lot of illegal things which is happening because of that, because of this onion routing. And if you please don't be like afraid, because actually one of the person who you might be chatting might be a police person from the nearest police station also. So like that also it could be, because nowadays what happens is, because to monitor this type of activity, what happens is there are also threat intelligence team. So threat intelligence, I think I have said it here. So there are also threat intelligence team who are actually hiding inside these forums. And so here the first one is threat intelligence team. So there are also threat intelligence team who are hiding here, who are sitting here, and who are monitoring what the malicious criminals are doing, what they are doing, and all those. So like as an example, like what I could say is in 2016, what happened is there was like the hackers who are actually there in the Tor group, they started planning an attack against Indian banks. So whatever they have done is they have started coordinating the tools and the weapons and the means like the programs. So weapons means here whatever we are saying is it's not a physical weapons or anything. It's actually the programs which they are going to use to initiate the attack against the Indian banking organization. So whatever they were coordinating this, and then what happens is like the police officials were also there. They were also very active, and they were also saying like, okay, they took their belief, and they were also there, and they were also saying like, okay, we will also help, and they were also doing things so that they get a belief. And finally what they have done is they have informed the government saying that okay, there is an attack from this point to this point which would be happening to banks, so please banks be very careful so that they won't lose their data, or they would be safe. And like what happened is they haven't blocked this attack. So whatever they have done is they have made enough resource so that even if the attack happens, it won't impact any of the Indian banking scenario. So that's what they have taken care. So they cannot block it and make their nullify their attack. So they have just added the resource and nullified their attack instead of blocking it, or instead of catching these criminals, because many cases it's very tough to catch these organized criminals. So, and it's not easy, but it doesn't say that it's not possible. It's only says that it's not easy. So you need to have the enough resource, you need to have the enough capabilities so that you could trace back and you would be able to catch these criminals. Okay. And get their information out. Okay, so the how this malware evades detection. So the initially what antivirus tools were using is like they were using signature based detection techniques which they were using. Then the static program analysis was used, like they used to disassemble and analyze the program. Then dynamic program analysis tools were used. Then the heuristic analysis were used. Then the entropy mechanism was used. So dynamic program means they'll run the program and see it. Heuristic, they will they'll run it, they'll do a static command, they'll they'll run it in sandbox environments also, like the Cocoon sandbox and all. And they the entropy is like they will check the information content. If it's a malicious file, then the entropy content would be more. So that's what they used to do. So what malware evading techniques, what anti-detection techniques malware uses? So they started using code obfuscation methods. So that's why I have actually introduced, that's also one of the reasons why I have introduced this. One second. Yeah, why I have introduced this encryption techniques. So here what they does is they take some malware, they packs, they uses an encryption program, they encrypts the file, they adds a decryption program on top, and they delivers this encrypted file along with the decryption program on the top, so that it comes to the system. It does an in-memory decryption, and to our bad luck, whatever the in-memory detection mechanism we are seeing, like it's not 100% foolproof, but there are a lot of researchers who are working on it, but it's not, still lot of work has to be done. So that's why these type of detection mechanism, these type of malwares are not getting detected. And why it is not 100% foolproof is, one reason is these mechanisms are also used by well-known softwares. So if you take Microsoft has proprietary concepts which is there, like Microsoft Excel. If you see, like a lot of formulas are there, maybe someone could steal that and use it in the open source version or something like that, or else maybe I could develop my own. So I could do the obfuscation of the I could do the reverse engineering of the Microsoft code, and I could reverse engineer it, and then I could I would be able to create my own version. So that's why they need to secure their intellectual property. So what they use is, they also use obfuscation. So obfuscation is not a obfuscation, and the packers, they also use this. It's not a offense by itself. So whatever malware developers they are doing is, they are taking these obfuscation techniques and they are using it in the malware. So whatever happens is, some program gets obfuscated, then what happens is they are not able to identify whether it's actual it was actually used by Microsoft. So how come it came into the hacker's hand and they started using it? So they does a lot of reverse engineering and do it. So this is actually recently one of the malware which was delivered, which came into society, was obfuscated one, which was actually using Microsoft Excel's obfuscation technique, and it became a big chaos to detect that. Then anti-VM or anti-debugger techniques are used, so that they won't get executed in the VM. So they won't execute the malicious routine in the VM. So that's also they are using. Okay. So recent malware threats. So this is something which is important, which comes like evasion techniques. I think I have already said. Confusing automated tools, so different signatures. So each time each obfuscation is done, it creates different signature. Then whatever I was saying earlier, like I have said, like the bot. So the bot is actually a problem here, because what happens is the bot, there are malwares which are getting incremental delivery. So like what happens is, the malware comes to your system, then it will wait for the instruction from the command and control server. So there's a command and control server which is there, and the bot master who would be sitting somewhere else. The command and control server could be a compromised machine, maybe a compromised website which is there, and the bot will constantly check there, and the bot master will update his commands to the command and control server, based on which the bot will act and the bot will do the attack. So that's what also there, like, and each time the incremented delivery, like maybe today the malware would be doing some functionality, tomorrow the malware could be doing some other functionality. So that incremental delivery is also done, means the update of malware through the command and control server. So that means they will say like, okay, update your program itself, and it will do a self upgradation of the program, and it will do different versions of release. Also, there is also a problem which is known as domain generation algorithm. So nowadays the bot are capable of, the malwares are capable of generating random domains in random interval, and they'll start registering those domains and the attack happens based on those domains. So that's also an issue which is happening. So domain generation algorithms are also used. So you could, those who are interested, they could go to internet and they could search for the various domain generation algorithms which is used. So okay, timing based evasion. So based on user profile, behavior profile by which would be monitored by the malware, and it executes at certain time when their behavior profile they are not there, or it creates similar behavior so that the host based intrusion detection systems will get confused and they won't be able to capture this. So obfuscating internal data, like replacing API names with the hashed values, hash table lookups and all. So they are also there. So there was also like defenders hope like to create a concept of vaccination, but I don't know how far the research is going on in that direction, but there were also angles in that. So crypto mining malware, I have already said. Ransomware, Stego exploit kit, IoT bot, that is already said. Like recent biggest DDoS attack was created by the IoT botnet, which was there. Around 18,000 IoT devices were compromised, and they have created the biggest DDoS attack. So then the drive-by download attacks, then the banking or financial malwares, which is like spy eyes. So all these are banking and financial malware, like the Swiss bot, where the malware sits in your browser and it has the capability, even if it's HTTPS, because I hope many of you would be installing add-ons from many sites so that many of the YouTube videos, everything could be downloaded. So but what happens is these add-ons are not safe. So what happens is they are capable of inspecting all your web page in the application level. So in your application level, in your lower layer, like these runs in the application level and would be capable of inspecting all your web pages. So that's a bottom of spot. Okay, then the point of sale malware, and the which is actually infecting the point of sale devices, and it creates it creates financial loss there. And then the fileless malware, which doesn't resides in the system, it either resides in the registry or in memory. So these are the recent trends which is there. And so along with that, I'd like to just maybe I'd like to cover some multi-vector and multi-stage attacks. So it's like our intercontinental ballistic missile, which we used to say in the military style. So it's similar to that. It uses multiple vectors, which is like targeted mail, drive-by download, compromised web servers, social engineering executable like Keylogger, Trojan, Backdoor, non-executable files like Office, PDF, and the videos files. So these are there, which is being used. And then it's generally programmed to exploit multiple 0 days. So 0 days are the vulnerabilities which is not known to public. So it has the capability to exploit multiple 0 days. And then the command and control channel for delivery of updated malware versions is established, so that it could do a self-updation. Then so these are the things which is used. So multi-vector increases the chance of bypassing traditional security mechanism. So as an example, this is the Java exploit kit, which is there, like where the HTML file comes to the browser and the jar file gets executed. The jar file exploits the JVM and it runs into the system. Then the second payload comes into the system. Then the second payload gets executed, which goes into the native, it escapes the JVM, and it have escaped the browser, it have escaped the JVM, and now it have gone to the main system, and it will infect the main system. So now what is happening? So this is actually what is happening. Like it is national state sponsored attack which is happening. Like it's not just to attack everyone and get their target. It's actually they are increasing the sophistication and they are doing the attack. So so it's like this. Maybe a crowd of people are there. Like what I am going to do is I am going to just do an attack to a particular person in this big crowd. So that's what I am aiming to. Okay. So I think I'll give 2 more examples and I'll stop. So could I take 5 more minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can take.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So, so what are advanced threats? Advanced threats are the threats which are over multiple stages, highly sophisticated and use stealth techniques, use one or more 0 days are used. It is undetectable for more long period, like maybe years, it would be going undetected. Then they are targeted, do not attack anybody else. Maybe if I'm saying like only it has to infect a particular organization, then it will infect only that organization. It won't infect any other organization. So, and then APTs are developed by combining concepts of multiple categories of malware and even with network level command and control communication, like by generating its own domain generation algorithms and all. So that would be, and so solution which are actually used to secure the general malware categories fails here because they are actually developed for a particular file, particular signature. All these techniques generally fails here. And even though nowadays, if you go to a company, if you go to a security firm, then whatever they are going to say to you, if you are a big organization, if you are going to a firm, and then whatever they are going to say to you is like, okay, my product is capable of detecting APT and securing your network from ransomware infection. So these two are which they are going to say. But frankly speaking, if the products were capable of detecting APT, so then why these APT attacks happens even now? So if you need to know the various APTs, you could go to the Kaspersky website, and there you have APT list. So which is there, which you could actually view, and you could see when a APT was introduced and till when it was in the society and when it got detected. So when it got first detected and afterwards how it is propagating. So that information you would be able to get it from there. Okay, so these are just some APT attacks, a very basic list which is taken from the entire list. So like you could go to, if you need APT list, you could go to Kaspersky site and you could get it. So but I am not saying like any tool, I am not saying any of the tool which has the capability, but everyone tries to do it. That's the only thing. Okay, Aurora attack, which was actually against Google, which was found in 2009. It's only found in 2009. We don't know when it was initially there. Then the Stuxnet Flame Duke Ghost, which was against Iran's nuclear power plant, which was found in 2010. So we don't know when it was initially came, but there are fingerprint which goes till 2005, and its initial final infection date was on 2012. And the HTRAN or HUC, Hong Kong Union of China packet transmission tool, which was against the RSA, which was used for RSA breach, which was found in 2011. Then Mandy or Mehndi, 800 victims in Israel and Iran. Then Red October in diplomatic, government and scientific research organization, which was infecting diplomatic, governmental and scientific research organization. Then the Madian, which was against Hong Kong, Ice Fog against Japan and South Korea. So you could see like it was each one of these is against each country. And like the Black Energy for power outage in 3 Ukraine substations, Torchalis, which is like 7 breeze malware clustering targeting against Asian government and NGOs. Then Operation Transparent Tribe targeting Indian diplomatic and military entries. Bangladesh Swift Bank attack. So I'll cover Bangladesh Swift Bank attack and in 1 minute. So it was like Swift, that stands for Society of Worldwide Interbank Financial Transaction. If you need to transfer money to US or any other country, then you need to actually do a Swift transaction. So your bank on behalf of you would be initiating this Swift transaction. So what happens is each bank, central banks, including central bank like RBI and Bangladesh RBI Central Bank, or maybe any, and most of the banks also keeps money in their public Swift account, and whatever they does is they does a settlement. Actual physical transaction of money doesn't happen. They does a settlement. So Ukrainian bank, so where the hacker have stolen $9 million in January 2009. Bangladesh bank, it was the biggest one which has happened, where they were capable of storing $81 million in 2 bytes to $81. They actually infected a system with a program malware, and these are the malware samples which they were able to get, and then they were able to infect it. And then like out of which actually $81 million is still unaccounted, which has gone and was looted by the criminals. And a commercial bank in Vietnam attempted to transfer $1.1 million, and like the these files were actually linked to the Lazarus cyber gang, but they were not able to catch anyone or find the proper evidence of that. So that is still pending. Then malware contains sophisticated functionality for interacting with the local Swift Alliance server, which is actually a proprietary access software running in the Swift server group, and it's not a public thing. So that's what it is important. These are not a public thing. These are proprietary things which is there, and part of the worldwide. It is actually part of the worldwide toolkit. So this is how, like, they have stopped all the feedback mechanism. This is how they have done. The attacker server is there, they send a message, there are Swift messages which is gone, and they have, once a feedback mechanism is there, they have tampered all the feedback mechanism, and none of the feedback mechanism worked. And whatever they have done is they have infected the system with a malware, and whatever they have done is they have just modified 2 codes to stop all the feedback system. They have, instead of 7504, they have just made it as a no operation. So they instead of the jump activity, jump fail, so then they were able to skip that. So that's actually what they have done, and which have created a lot of looting of money. So by that, I will end the, even though I was having more slides, I'll end by this. If there is any questions, I am ready to answer.
Participants, if you have any questions, you can either unmute and ask directly or put it in chat box. I feel there is no questions, I think. Aparna, you can conclude.
Okay. It was such an wonderful section. A hearty gratitude to Dr. Hiran Nath sir on behalf of IEEE Malabar Subsection. And I extend my sincere thanks to the Dr. Sabik sir, Dr. Bindima ma'am, and all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Viren sir. Thank you for giving a wonderful section. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Participants, you can fill out the feedback link for availing certificates. Bindima ma'am, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Leave it, leave it.
Okay, Livia.